Let's start at the beginning. Let's start with dating. When should you talk about money? Okay. Take it from the guy who didn't follow my own advice and talked about it too late. Everybody listen to what I'm saying, not what I did.
I think there is this misconception that okay, when we start having conversations about money and I want to be an equal partner, it's a 50-50 split. But most partners don't have the exact same financial situation. You're both making $75K a year. You both have $10,000 invested. Very few people have the exact same situation. So what problems does that lead to when we say, okay, we're just going to split things down the middle?
Excellent question. When you're dating, things are relatively simple. I don't encourage people who are dating to combine their incomes in general. So, it's like, hey, we're going out and maybe one partner picks up dinner, the other picks up drinks, or however you decide to split it. As long as you both feel good about it, great.
Can we pause there? How do you have that conversation? Because I know there's some people listening of how do I bring up, hey, I'm going to cover dinner if you can cover ice cream after, or whatever that looks like.
Okay.
I'll cover dinner, you cover the movie.
Let's start at the beginning. Let's start with dating. When should you talk about money? Okay. Take it from the guy who didn't follow my own advice and talked about it too late. Everybody listen to what I'm saying, not what I did. Okay. The frequent advice in the personal finance world is you should talk about money as early as possible. First date. I'm like, you guys have never been on a first date. Get a life. That's not how you're pulling out your freaking Roth IRA on date one. Hey, everybody, look, Vanguard. No. By date 3 or 4, you probably like the person a little bit. You're curious about them. That's a great time, as you're learning more about them, to start asking genuinely curious questions. Hey, where'd you grow up? What'd you guys do for the holidays? And I'm listening for clues. If they're like, oh, every December we go to Aspen. Oh, wow, that's quite interesting. Or if like my family, for vacation, we got in our minivan and drove from Northern California to Southern California to visit our family. That's also telling.
Yeah.
So I'm not asking numbers, but I'm genuinely curious, and I'm kind of putting together a little collage of what I know about this person. A great time to start talking more substantively about money is the first time you take a trip together. It can be the first trip, first nice dinner. It's that first moment where the stakes are a little higher.
Yep.
And I want to tell the exact phrase that I encourage you to use in this moment. Adapt this for whatever relationship status you're in. You go to your partner and you say, hey, I am so excited about this trip we get to take. I can't wait for us to spend 5 days together and be by the ocean. It's going to be amazing. I took a look at my numbers and I have a sense of what I can afford, but I would love to hear from you. How are you thinking about money for this trip? Now, let me break down what I did in 3 parts. First, I got excited. I always pin it to the North Star, the rich life vision. I'm so excited. I appreciate you. I love spending time with you. That's number 1.
And it's not about money at all, actually. It's and we'll come back to what you did with your partner, but it's what I advise people to do too, which is how do we use money as a tool to build the life that we want? It actually has nothing to do with money originally. It's we want to do this thing, which is travel. I'm so excited for that. So it takes money out of the conversation for a second before things start getting a little more serious.
Always start with appreciation and a reminder of what we're doing and why we get to do it.
Yeah.
The next thing I did is very important. Too often people give away their power when it comes to money. And the way they do this is they say, what do you think? No. What do you think? You better know your numbers before you start a conversation about money. You're actually delegating your power and your authority by going, what do you think? That's actually unacceptable. I have a lot of compassion for money. I have infinite compassion for people who don't understand how savings and investing works. But I have very little patience when people willingly give away their power and then turn around and say, hey, it doesn't feel fair. So in part 2, you say, look, I ran my numbers. I have a sense of what I can afford, which is amazing. And then politely you say, but I'm curious what you think. And that's part 3, which is engaging in a dialogue, right? I'm not coming in there guns blazing. Hey, look at how much my savings rate is. No, it's like, hey, let's talk. And I have a number, maybe you have a number, maybe we don't have a number, but let's figure out what this looks like for us. Now, adapt that to the first time you go out to eat at a fancy restaurant, or when one of you buys a gift for the other and you're thinking about holiday gifts, etc. It's pinning it at the North Star, making sure you maintain your power, and engaging in a dialogue.
Okay, that's so helpful. I want to then ask the question that's on everybody's minds, which is, what are the red flags when we are dating and we start to have these conversations that spark that, oh, this might not be a healthy relationship? And what are the absolute deal breakers if we're having this conversation and something happens? Like, how do we know this is not fixable or this is not solvable?
To me, there's one deal breaker when it comes to money, absolute deal breaker. And that is if your partner is unwilling to talk about money. Like, we can work with a lot, but if they're not willing to talk about it, if they are simply shut down, if they shame you for bringing it up, and they might use language like this: why do you always have to bring up money? Can't we have one night where we don't talk about money? That's a method of simply shutting you down. That's a red flag to me. I have a second red flag, not as severe, but pretty bad. And that's cheap people. Listen, I can fix a lot, but I can't fix cheap. People who are cheap actually revel in being cheap. And they've actually created an identity where they are virtuous for being cheap. Oh, me? Little old me? Simple Ramit? I don't need that fancy wine or Topo Chico or type of car because I am a simple, virtuous man who simply exists with a 35-year-old cotton shirt. It's not cute. It's not cool. And it actually is very difficult to change. So I don't mind if someone's like, hey, I actually don't really care about nice hotels, or eating out isn't really like my thing. I prefer to eat at home. That's fine. But there's a difference between being a conscious spender and being cheap. And when you're cheap, it affects the people around you, and you always lead with cost. And that's a red flag.